Hey!
Old over a decade.
Hey, that's a yeehaw moment right there.
PQ here, PQ Speed Shop. So, if you remember the last time, on the last episode, we went ahead and replaced the left frame rail in the front. We have not completely welded it in. It's just in there with sheet metal screws for now, because I need to move some other things around in order to get it right. I need to make sure that I can adjust things as they're on the fly. Plus, I need to prep the panel for welding. So the next logical step would be the right-hand frame rail. Well, the issue is that with the other right-hand frame rail, I have a whole entire upper inner fender that's attached already to that frame rail. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attack this upper cowl and lower cowl, or firewall. So what I've done is I've added some additional bracing on here and here to make sure that nothing here moves. It's already on the jig, so it doesn't move from side to side, but I want to make sure that nothing moves or flexes this way. So we want to keep these arms here because we're going to be removing all of this section here. I have the new panel behind me, and we will prep that panel as well. So the first thing we need to do is we need to cut this out. And the best way to do it in order to get to the spot welds is to go ahead and take a plasma cutter and start cutting it. But one of the things we need to pay attention to is right up on the top here on an E-body is one of the few places that actually has the serial number for the car. Now we're replacing this piece because it's obviously rotted out and it needs to be replaced. But we want to keep the integrity of the vehicle somewhat, so we're going to go ahead and cut this serial number out here and place it into the new panel. We're not rebodiing a car. I still have the VIN tag for it, the fender code tag and everything for it. I've got all the history behind this car. I know this car. So I am already aware that this is an important part of the history of this vehicle. And although a lot of it is rotted and is going to be replaced, we want to keep some integrity to the originality of the vehicle, and that being this serial number, that is the VIN number, the last 6 digits of the VIN number, and the B code for the Challenger on this upper cowl assembly. So we'll be cutting this out separately and welding in, and I will show that later. So let's get started. We're going to use the plasma cutter here to go ahead and start cutting out these large sections of the firewall and the upper cowl. PQ here. It's the next day after tearing out the firewall, the cowl assembly, upper and lower cowl. And if you see, I've got the new pieces test fitted in there. In a second, I'll walk you around and show you some points. This is the most painful part about panel replacement. I got it in there. It was extremely tight fit to get the panels in there, which is a good thing. That's what you want. You want it to be tight. But in the same sense, I have to take it out again and prep the panel for the welding with the weld through primer and everything else. So at this point, now that it's in here, I can go around and check to see where everything touches, make sure everything is tight, play around with it, see if I need to trim anything. But this is where we're at right now. I'm going to take you around and show you a few things. I had found an article, it's an old article from Hot Rod Magazine that showed the E-body replacement of the firewall. So I kind of went by that. I've never done this before on this particular type of car, and that's very intrusive. I mean, you're basically taking out the entire width of the car, entire panel, and the firewall is a huge part of it. It's part of the structure of the E-body structure, or the unibody structure. So here is the new panel tested. Now on this E-body, when you do this, and according to Hot Rodder magazine, you got 4 points that you're going to go off of. This one, and this one on both sides. So you're going to go by, and of course on the bottom, you're going to fit on the floor piece there. But you can see it has to wrap around this outer door cowl piece, and then everything is up here. If your car comes with these pieces on the new panel, they recommend that you leave the old ones to help line it up and cut them off the new panel. Luckily this panel did not have those pieces on there, or I would have had to cut them off. But this, you want to use this part of the body as a reference in order to mount the new body panel. You can see what kind of mess I've got down here. I've got to do some cleanup so I can get around. But the panels are all down there, and then on this upper cowl piece, remember like I said, we're going to have to cut out the serial number on the old one and weld it into this new panel, and we're going to try to do it and make it look like it was there all along. And obviously if somebody looks underneath or does a x-ray of it, they're going to be able to tell where it was warmed up or whatever. But this car is, I know the history of this car. I've had it since the other owner had it. The car was complete when I got it, so there's no rebodying car. I mean, we're replacing a large amount of panels on it, but it's still the same car, and the whole inner structure and everything is the exact same. It's the actual car the way I got it. So like with this one here, the frame rail is there. It's sheet metal screwed and clamped in place, but it's not welded. And one of the reasons why is because we want to go ahead and get this piece in here, and then I'm going to have to replace that frame rail on the other side. I went ahead and ordered this radiator support just simply because it's pretty rough on the inside. You know, once I got in here and looked at it, you know, it's like I could sandblast it, but it's so pitted. And the price of a new one, it just made more sense to go that route. Now additionally, like the upper cowl, on this piece, you have your serial numbers on here as well. So I'm going to have to take that out and put that on the new part when it comes in, just so the car has all the original markings. And on an E-body, those are the 3 spots here, the cowl, and then of course the VIN number tag that's on the dashboard. Those items are the VIN. Some of the other Moparts have it in the back on the trunk area as well. Now when you see why we're going to replace this frame rail over here, it's pretty bad, man. It's rotted. It's pretty bad. So this is where we're at. Just a lot of mess here. Every time you cut on this thing, it's piles and piles of rust. Everything rust. All up inside here was all rusted. There was piles of debris, walnut shells, dirt, you name it was inside these panels, and they never allowed the water to actually flow out of these weep holes like it was intended to. But it really is a bad design because it's pretty much flat right in there under here, so the water just comes down through the vents under the hood, and then it lays there. You know, if something goes behind the hood, because the hood comes over this, comes behind it, where does it go? It goes straight down there and then lays in this firewall area. This is going to be garage kept as long as I own it, which is, I don't plan on getting rid of it. So hopefully we won't have to worry about that too much. But we're going to go ahead and prep it just like it would be out in the rain. These original panels that were on here didn't have any. Here, let me pull one of these out so I can show you. The plasma cutter made pretty quick work of this stuff, but you can see this is essentially bare metal. There is no primer on this whatsoever, and the paint that actually went on it was just a brush. And this is the bottom part of the floor that attaches to the floor, the bottom part of the firewall, and goes up. So everything from here up was essentially bare metal. There's literally nothing on it. The fact that it's not worse than this is amazing. PQ here, PQ Speed Shop. Sorry about the earlier video, my battery went dead. So I want to go ahead and show you, I've had the cowl panel in and out several times for fitting, and then I decided to go ahead and plug weld that part because I just think it's going to be stronger. Trying to get my little tiny spot welder in there is going to be rough. So let me go ahead and show you what I got, because I prepped the panel and got it ready, and now it's in place and ready to be welded. Alright, so here's your cowl panel. It's in place, and my plan here, if you want to see how this goes, there's a bracket, and this is the bracket you leave on the car. This whole bracket right here. Leave that on the car, or I left that on the car according to Hot Rod magazine, and cut the one off to come on the AMD panel. And so that I'm using this as a reference point. And where the tabs are on that, they line up with these holes that I made. What I did was I put it in, I marked it, and I went back and drilled the holes that I needed for the plug welds in there, and I did that all the way across and all the way down here. Now that's as much as I'm going to weld in for now. And I have this new panel in here, but I'm going to wait until I get the rest of this inner fender and everything else in there before I weld all that stuff. But I want this as a base, because this is a base for the entire vehicle. As you see, I braced it in several places to keep it from moving, plus it's on the jig. So I've had this in and out, and it's a tight fit, which is good. Like I said, your two references, this will be on the top piece that fits on top, because this lip goes around this inner cowl piece here, and it fits pretty tight. But you know, I scraped it up and stuff getting it in and out, but it's just e-coating. I'm going to sand it down, scuff it, and put primer on eventually anyway. So what you see here is a weld through primer. The red stuff is weld through primer. And I scuffed it certain places because I'm going to end up priming this, and maybe shooting some of that enamel paint down in there, just simply to cover up, give it a little bit of color underneath, because once you put the upper cowl on top, the only way paint's going to get down there is through those vent holes in the top. That's the only way. And that's still better than what the factory had. But I want to go ahead and make sure this thing doesn't rust again, as long as I own it. So I've got this in, and I probably had this in a half dozen times, in and out. Not an easy job, especially by yourself, but it can be done. I went ahead and marked this because I was going to drill the holes in this, but I think once I get this new panel on, because I got a new panel for this, that I'll be able to use the spot welder instead. So this is where we're at right here. I may get some blow through here if you see this one spot. In the end, what I end up doing is I'll go ahead and weld this, and if I have to, I'll make a patch piece that goes there. Because this isn't bad enough like the other side that needed to be replaced. This is still pretty good. So that's where we're at right now, and we're going to commence to do some welding. So in this episode, I went ahead and finished welding in the Firewall lower cowl assembly. If you notice here, I ground down my welds, and then I threw a little bit of enamel paint underneath where I'll no longer have access, and I'll do that for the same part of the upper part of the upper cowl. And the whole reason I do that is just simply because it won't be hit by any paint when I paint it. So it's not necessary, but it's something I feel, you know, if it keeps it from rusting in the future, then so be it. I want this thing to be around way past whenever I'm gone. So, well, it's time for me to start cleaning up so I can get on to something else. So please subscribe, follow along. If you have any comments or suggestions, questions, please list them below. And until next time, peace.